Welcome back to Steele and Vance. As promised, it's time to dive straight into BC politics, which has been turbulent waters to say the least. We have Rob Shaw, our colleague from CHEK, political correspondent, right at the heart of all of this. Boy, I'm following along on your social media, following along on CHEK, and it's just crazy what we're witnessing right now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, whenever you got a really, contentious election on the horizon, crazy stuff starts to happen. We're 4 months from an election. This is kind of par for the course. We've seen defections and party swapping before, and here we are again. Time is a flat circle, as they say.
So we've got Lorne Dirksen left, and he was a big player in a way with the BC United from Caribou Chilcotin. And then we have Eleanor Sturco, also a star MLA from one of the Surrey ridings, Surrey White Rock, I think, is that what it was? Anyway, so apparently Kevin Falcon, well, not apparently, is super unhappy about these
apparently.
defections.
Air quotes, apparently unhappy.
And I'm curious to know, Rob, if you think there is anyone left to go, because I know they've nominated a lot of people, and there may be some MLAs that John Rustad from the Conservatives doesn't want from the BC United.
It's a small pool of people who are incumbent MLAs who might jump. And the key is what you just raised there, is that John Rustad has said he won't move any of his candidates out of the way to make for United candidates. So there's only a couple ridings that are left where the Conservatives don't have candidates in place where MLAs could jump. Entire regions of this province, the Conservative thinks that they're going to win. The Peace region, the North, they're not interested in Shirley Bond or Dan Davies or Mike Bernier. They think they can win Kamloops. They're not interested in Todd Stone and Peter Millibar. So I don't think maybe, but I think a lot of the focus now is on BC United candidates, especially first-timers recruited out of their communities to run for BC United. They're looking at all of this chaos, the poll numbers. They're going, oh my God, what did I get into? We've already seen one of them quit, their Coquitlam-Ballardville candidate, and I think there might be a few that are looking to get out as well.
It's really something. I got to wonder what is going on behind closed doors with the Premier and the NDP while watching all of this upheaval between the BC United and BC Conservative parties, the conversations around a possible merger, what might happen there. And now it's all about vote splitting. What are you hearing behind the scenes from the NDP?
Well, it's manna from heaven for the NDP for two reasons. One, they would prefer to fight the BC Conservatives. It gives them a cartoon villain. They are able to paint the Conservatives as extremists, American-style politics, culture wars, coming after your social and human rights. So they would love to go up against the Conservatives versus a more moderate party like BC United. The second thing is all of these merger talks let the NDP paint all their opposition as scheming, backroom dealers trying to divide up the province and worm their way into power. And that doesn't make them look good either. So the NDP is doing great. I've been saying for months now, their biggest enemy is themselves. The arrogance, the inertia, 7 years in power, the feeling of invulnerability. That's often what brings parties down, not necessarily the rising sort of, tide of their opponents. And if you're the NDP, that's the single biggest thing that you've got to avoid, being lazy and arrogant and feeling like with this vote splitting, you got the election basically in the bag.
And there's a lot of time left between now and October when we're going to go to the polls. So who knows what's going to happen in between there. But it kind of looks like the BC United is on, I don't know if it's a stretch to say on life support, but even if they manage to hold on to the MLAs they currently have, they may not win the ridings. There's a possibility this party might just boof.
100%. There is for sure. They have now 13 incumbents left. Tough areas of the province. They could lose seats. They could end up as a non-entity in the legislature. Their current plan is to propose some big policy announcements over the next few weeks to try and shake, the electorate, show them that they are serious, that they have ideas. For all the success that the BC Conservatives have had, they don't have a lot of policies. Mm-hmm. They pull really well on economic policies and deficit management. They really have none that I'm aware of. And United is trying to come out with things like their new childcare plan, subsidies for people who can't get $10 a day spaces. They want to put things on the table that show they're serious. And if you don't like the NDP, the adults in the room, as they call themselves, are United, not the Conservatives who, every few weeks have a candidate, a completely wacko candidate who appears and, says that COVID vaccines give you magnetic powers and poof, they get ejected out of the space lock and everyone's like, what is with this party? So there's still a lot of time for that to happen. Maybe the ideas from United cut through the fog. Maybe we see a shifting dynamic, or maybe United gets wiped off the map. It's 4 or 5 months is a while.
Yeah.
When you say shifting dynamic, you don't see any universe where Kevin Falcon and John Rustad find a way to drop arms and
Too late, I think.
right?
No. There was a time, and we'll look back on this. There was a time around Christmas where they hadn't appointed enough candidates, each party, that they could have found a way to merge. But remember, John Rustad and Kevin Falcon hate each other.
They do.
Falcon ejected Rustad from caucus. There's an undercurrent in United of people who feel alienated from the Conservatives and vice versa. And so it's not going to happen. More than likely, they rebuild after they both realize that, apart they can't defeat the NDP, which historically is how the math works in this province.
Oh, it's so interesting, and it's going to be interesting all through the long, hot summer. Rob Shaw, thanks so much for your insight.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
We'll be tuned in to CHEK and reading you everywhere you are,
Yeah.
Rob Shaw. Thank you for that. And hey, speaking of stories, so many negative stories around people with disabilities struggling to travel. Well, a humble Broncos survivor, Ryan Straznitsky, is on a mission to bring accessible adventure travel to the fore. You're going to meet him later in the show.
And now that Robert Pickton is dead, questions are being asked about what's been done to prevent another serial killer from preying on vulnerable women. We're going to talk to Wally Opal.
But first, we got to get to our viewing party. This is the fun part, right? Shelley and Victoria, you're on TV.
Mike and Vicky and Surrey, hello.
We love that you guys are taking your pictures and watching us. Katina in Kamloops, hello there.
And Eldon in South Surrey. Thanks to everyone for sending in the photos. The email address is viewingparty@chekmedia.ca.